As an international student trying to come to the US for an MBA program and wants to stay back in the US to work immediately post MBA, listen, it is tough, like really tough. And in this video, I'll share with you some of the visa related issues that you must know now before you decide to join that MBA program. What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be sharing with you visa related issues that you must know as an international student before you decide to come to the US for your MBA program, especially if you want to stay back in the US immediately post MBA. So we'll be talking about all those things and 5 things you need to ask your school before you accept that admission. Okay, disclaimer, I am solely going to be talking about these things from my experience, nothing professional. I am not a lawyer, I am not an attorney. Definitely seek professional advice if you need it, but this is just like basic things that I've learned from being in this situation, from doing research, and yeah, not professional experience. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, I might be sharing a lot of information in this video, so if you find it helpful, have a paper, have a pen, and let's get started. So first, what is the visa situation today? As an international student coming to the US for your MBA program, you typically will come on an F1 visa, except for Canadians and a couple other countries that I don't know. You will come to the US to study on an F1 visa, and this visa usually would be valid throughout your 2-year MBA program or 1-year MBA program, whatever the case. Usually would be valid until like your graduation or a month after your graduation or something. So that is the F1 visa. But prior to graduation, like just before you graduate, while you're in like your 2nd year, if it's a 1-year MBA program, like towards the end of that program, you're eligible to apply for the OPT. So OPT is optional practical training, and it's basically a temporary visa that allows you to work in the US on a temporary basis. Basically, it's usually valid for 12 months. And it has a start date and an end date, clearly. But these are the things you need to know about the OPT. OPT is a temporary visa, so it is like you are allowed to work in the US to gain some classroom-related knowledge. So basically, for you to be able to gain work experience that is related to what you studied in the classroom. So that is the OPT. But the biggest gist about the OPT is that for most MBA programs, the OPT is only for 1 year, 12 months. But if you do a STEM program, your OPT can be renewed for up to 3 years. So that is a huge difference. You do a normal MBA program that is not STEM recognized, no STEM designation, you actually just have OPT for 1 year, 12 months. But if you do a STEM program or you do an MBA, and as part of your MBA, your school has some management science or some STEM related course attached to it, you can renew your OPT for 3 years. And that is massive. So that's the biggest thing you need to know about OPT. But another thing that you need to know about OPT is that OPT is still school sponsored. So like your F1, that is school sponsored. So your sponsor to the US is your school. OPT is still school sponsored, and it's an opportunity the school or the US is providing for you to kind of gain some practical knowledge that is related to what you studied in the class. So OPT is school sponsored. It is not an employer sponsorship, so you can get it. Usually you apply just before you graduate, and by the time you graduate, you typically would have gotten your OPT. Now, what is the other gist you need to know about OPT? There's a start date on your OPT card, and if you don't start working on your start date, you have 90 days to remain unemployed in the US. So even though your OPT has a 12-month validity, you cannot remain in the US for the 12 months if you don't have a job. I repeat that. So even though your OPT has a 12-month validity, you cannot remain in the US for 12 months without a job. So you get your OPT and you have like 90 days to stay in the US and remain unemployed. After the 90 days, you have to leave. If not, it's considered you overstaying your visa and all of that, all of those issues. What I really like about the OPT is that you don't need paid employment. You don't need any to work with a company. You could be working on your own thing, your own startup, and you'll be on the OPT visa. Remember that I said that OPT, you can only remain in the US for 90 days unemployed, even though your OPT has a 12-month validity. The thing is, you can remain in the US and be working on your own startup or your own venture and all of that, or working on an idea or a research kind of thing. You don't need paid employment, which I think is really great, because you have the chance to like do your own thing. You're not under pressure to kind of like find a job and work in some sort of paid employment. You don't need that. Just work on your own thing, and your OPT is still like, you can use it for the 12 months or the 3 years, depending on whether or not you have STEM. So I've mentioned 3 things you need to know about OPT. First is, OPT is school sponsored, and so you are still bound by the conditions, like the normal F1 visa conditions that you must meet to remain legal in the US. So basic conditions like report to your school if you change your address and all of that. I'll drop links in the description box for you to learn more. So OPT 1 is school sponsored. 2, OPT, if you do a normal MBA program, has a 12-month validity. If you do a STEM MBA or a management science related MBA, you can renew your OPT for 3 years. So it's 3 years versus 1 year. And then the third thing is, OPT has a 12-month validity, but you cannot remain in the US for 12 months after graduation without a job. You're only allowed 3 out of those 12 months to remain in the US without a job. Now let's move away from the OPT conversation and talk about H1B. So H1B is a company-sponsored visa. Unlike the OPT, it's not school-sponsored. It is company-sponsored. And for you to work beyond your OPT period, let's say your OPT ends 12 months after graduation, for instance, you need another visa type. You need another visa class to be able to work in the US. So H1B is what people typically get. So the company, you need the job, you need to have a job with a company, and the company needs to be willing to sponsor you. Basically, the company needs to be able to put in a visa application for you, saying we want this person to work with us and we need this person to have a work visa. So for the H1B, the company sponsors. For the OPT, the school sponsors. For H1B, these are the things you must know. First, for you to get H1B visa, basically you need H1B visa after your OPT has expired. For you to get H1B visa, you need to get a job in a company that will sponsor you. Basically, you can't file an application. It's the company that will file an application for your H1B visa. That is 1. 2, many companies that previously sponsored international MBA students are no longer sponsoring. I'll say that again because that is the gist. Many companies that previously sponsored international students are no longer sponsoring. And the reason is that even though they are willing to sponsor your H1B visa application, once they put in your application, it goes through a lottery system. Basically, let's say the US wants to give out 3,000 H1B visas this year. Like maybe 40,000 people apply. I don't have the right numbers, but it's like that magnitude. So the company is willing to sponsor, they put in an application, but you might still not get the H1B visa because it's a lottery and it's just like 50-50% chance, and you just didn't get it for whatever reason. Now, if this is where the OPT STEM versus no STEM is important. If the company applies for your H1B and you don't get it, and you had only 1 year OPT eligibility, that means that was your only chance of getting the H1B, and that means you need to leave the United States immediately after your 12-month OPT expires. Basically, you continue working, you graduate from school, you start working with your OPT, and you're valid in the US, and now the company is willing to file another visa type for you so you can continue working in the US. But let's say you go through the lottery and you don't get that visa, you need to leave the US. That is it. But if you had a STEM degree and you're able to get OPT for 3 years, the company can file for your H1B the first year you don't get it. They can file again the second year you didn't get it. The third year they can file again, and you may get it, you may not. So what that means is, if you do the normal MBA program, you have one chance of being putting in an H1B application. But if you do a STEM degree, you have 3 chances. Basically, the company can apply for your H1B visa 3 times. Unlike the normal MBA, the company can apply for your H1B once. Why is all of this important? It means once you graduate from school, you start working. You can continue working for as long as your OPT is valid. So you can continue working even though they are also still processing another visa type for you, which is the H1B. But when the moment where there's a problem is when your OPT is about to expire and you don't have another visa type. That is when you need to leave the US. But if you had 3 chances at OPT, that means you can stay for 3 years in the US at least. And then if you get another visa type, then great. Now, what some big corporations do is, if you have a 1-year OPT eligibility and you have your 1-year OPT and they file for your H1B, you did not get it, sadly. Sad news. You didn't get it. What happens, what really big corporations do is that at the end of your 12-month OPT, you leave the US. They transfer you to an international office outside of the United States. You work there for 1 year, and then they could bring you in as an expert 1 year later. Basically, those big companies can take you to an international office and bring you in under another visa category after 1 year, which is not the H1B or whatever. That's conversation for another day. They bring you back in as an expert or under some other visa type. So, but if you don't work with such companies that have offices all over the world, you don't have that luxury, and you still have to leave the US anyway, and you kind of have to like go look for another job somewhere else in another country. And that's kind of something that you just need to know. It's a conversation you would kind of have with your employer when you accept the offer. So why is all this information important in you deciding whether or not to accept that MBA admission? It is very important, and you need to ask your school. You need to kind of know a couple of things before you decide to accept that admission and join the program. You need to know a couple of things. The first thing I believe you need to ask the school, or you need to figure out some way, is the MBA a STEM MBA? You need to ask the school, is there a STEM designation? Is there management science that people typically get as part of their MBA? Like, what is there a STEM thing in the mix? Basically, is there a STEM thing anywhere? You need to really ask the school, because like I mentioned, by now you should know, if you've been watching this video, there's a big difference, like a huge difference between a normal MBA program and a STEM MBA, because you get a 1 year versus 3 year chance of staying in the United States and working if you're able to get a job. So the first thing you need to ask the school is this a STEM MBA? Is there a STEM designation? Is there a management science? Is there some STEM anything as part of this MBA? You need to figure that out, and that will help you in deciding whether or not to join that program. The second thing you want to ask the school is about, the industry. And you can ask current students, the industry that I want to consider post MBA, or the industry that I want to apply to post MBA, is the school a target school for that industry, and does this industry sponsor? Listen, if you do your research well and you speak to current students, we all know those industries are like not great at sponsoring international students or MBA students. We know them, so you just need to do your research. You need to ask the school, you need to speak with current students, you need to do some online research. We all know those industries that are not big on like sponsoring international students, but what you really want to ask the school is, are you a target school for this industry that I'm crazy about? Are you a target school for these kind of jobs? Because those companies, many companies for MBA recruiting have like their 10, 20, 15, 12 target schools, and they prioritize those schools. And as an international student, if you are really like into a specific industry, you need to really ask, are you guys like the deal for this industry? Are you guys like target for this industry? And second question, does this industry sponsor? And that is more like information you need to like sieve out by yourself, by speaking with students, by going online, by seeing what people are saying. That's something you need to do. So the third thing you need to know before you accept that MBA admission is, what are the resources this MBA program has for international students? Basically, job related resources targeted at international students in the MBA program. I'm not talking about like the international office for the entire school or for all graduate students. I'm talking about MBA students, because I'm of the opinion that MBA students need targeted resources, job related resources, especially if you're international, because it is tough. It is a big deal. Like, I'm taking a $200,000 loan or $100,000 loan. I need targeted resources, okay? So you need to just ask the school, like, what are the resources that you've provided, job related resources targeted at MBA students in this program, in this school? You know, you need to know specifically how the school supports international students in the program, because things change every single day. Policies, visa related issues for like international students change every time, and you need to be in a program that is like very flexible, and they have resources to support you. They have people that experience in being international and have experience with coming from another country, doing a graduate program and working in the US. You need to know that they have those resources. So don't ask about the entire school, ask about the MBA program. Do you have resources targeted at MBA students in this program? You know, job related resources, so that when you're going through all these visa related issues, because see, it is frustrating because you go for some interviews. We're not even talking about that today, but it is a big deal. So you need to make sure the school has those resources to support you and just help you go through this process in an easier manner. Number 4 thing I think you need to know before you accept that MBA admission is job report. You need to check the job report for the school or for the program. And I'm not talking about like just checking their job report and saying like they have a 95% employment rate 90 days post MBA. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about going through their job report and checking how many of these reported numbers are international students. How many of these, maybe the 5% of the 100% are the international students in that program, and they all didn't get jobs. So you need to know that. You need to know of this 90% employment reported by this school, how many are international, how many are in the MBA program, how many are in another program within the business school. You need to know all those things. You need to really, like, I believe like the data that you need in that job report isn't the 90% or the 95%. It is what percentage of international students got jobs in the United States immediately post MBA, or what percentage got jobs 90 days post MBA or 6 months post MBA, whatever is relevant to you. But you need to ask about international students. You need to ask about your program. So of these numbers you're reporting, how many are international, how many got jobs in the US, how many got jobs outside of the US? Because for me, those two are important, because I might be considering the US and also international jobs outside of the US. So you need to check the job report. And also, if you can't find some information, last time I checked, I don't think all schools report like these are the international ones. You know, you need to ask them like, oh, I found your job report and I really want to know how many of these students are international and how many got jobs in the US, got jobs outside of the US. So that's something you need to figure out. The last thing is money. Scholarships. You need to really know. Oh, the way I think about it is, it's more a big deal if I'm taking a $200K loan, if I'm taking a $100,000 loan and I don't get a job or a dollar paying job immediately post MBA or 6 months post MBA. That's how I think about it. And you know, you need to just figure out how much scholarships can I get from this school. If I'm getting a free ride, I know it's still a big deal if you don't get a job and your goal is to stay in the US, but I mean, if you're getting a free ride at a good school and you don't get a job immediately, I think it's kind of okay. And you know, it's a better situation to be in than to have a 200K loan or $150,000 loan and you can't get a job, or you're unable to get a job for 6 months because, hey, interest rates. You need to really figure out, the last thing you need to ask the school or ask yourself for information you need to get is, what are the scholarships, what are the funding opportunities in the school that are available to me, just so this process becomes easier, it becomes an easier decision for me to make. And I did a video on getting scholarships for international students. I'll link that in the description box, and I'll also link it up here. Definitely watch that video as well. So thanks for watching this video. Let me know in the comment section if you have questions relating to visa issues, sponsorship in the US for international students, or if you're comparing two MBA programs right now and you're making a decision. I'm happy to help, share my experience and all of that. Let me know in the comment section. I will definitely answer all your questions to the best of my abilities. Okay, so if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell so you know when I drop these videos, and also follow me on Instagram, and I will see you in my next video. Stay safe.